In the previous lesson, you learned some techniques for manipulating data. In this lesson, you'll learn some additional functions and techniques useful for analyzing the data in your spreadsheet. What do we really mean when we say analyze the data? Well, we start with a lot of information about something, our data, such as how many apples and oranges were ordered in the fruit stand example, or rosters and salaries in the baseball players example. This data by itself doesn't mean much until we start asking and answering questions about it. For example, how many pieces of fruit on average were in each order? Or what's the average salary for an American League baseball player in 2003? We can find out some of this information using aggregation functions. You've already used two of these, sum and average, to answer some questions. So you've already started analyzing data with aggregation functions in the previous lesson. There are quite a few more aggregation functions, and you're going to learn some of these. These functions may not answer all the questions we have, though. We often want to find out if a cell meets certain conditions. For example, if a student scored above a certain value on a test, give them an A. For these conditional dependencies, logical functions are what is needed. We'll go over the if function and the comparison operators that go with it. Then examine logical functions and, or, and not. The last group of logical functions we'll explore combine aggregation with logic. We'll refer to these as conditional aggregation functions. Next, you'll learn to create pivot tables. A pivot table is a tool that will allow you to summarize and aggregate data all in one step. After that, we'll shift directions a bit and introduce named ranges, which are helpful when we reuse the same ranges over and over in our spreadsheets. It's much easier to remember something like student roster than some cryptic address like sheet 3 bang A1 to J943 or some such thing. Using descriptive names for ranges will also reduce errors and increase understanding of the formulas as they become more complex. The named ranges are going to be especially helpful in working with lookup functions at the end of the lesson. Okay, let's get started.